Prologue. In the annals of medical history, few figures stand as prominently as Aulus Cornelius Celsus and Paracelsus, two titans whose divergent approaches to healing have shaped the evolution of medicine from antiquity to the Renaissance. The differences of their methodologies illuminate the profound transformation in medical thought that took place during the life of Paracelsus, marking a shift from the humoral theories of the Greco-Roman world to the chemical and holistic perspectives that foreshadowed modern medical science. Aulus Cornelius Celsus, a Roman encyclopedist of the 1st century AD, is best remembered for his comprehensive medical treatise, De Medicina. His work epitomized the rational and empirical methods of Greek medicine, heavily influenced by Hippocrates and his followers. Celsus' approach was systematic, conservative, and grounded in the clinical observation and empirical treatment of symptoms. He meticulously cataloged a wide array of medical knowledge, including dietetics, pharmacology, and surgical procedures, providing a vital repository of information that would guide physicians for centuries and fascinate to this day. Central to Celsus' medical philosophy was the now debunked humoral theory, which posited that human health depended on the balance of 4 bodily fluids or humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Disease in this framework resulted from imbalance of these humors, and treatments aimed to restore equilibrium through methods such as bloodletting, purging, and dietary adjustments. This theory, rooted in the observational practices of ancient physicians, underscored a methodical and cautious approach to healing that prioritized established practices and evidence-based treatments. In stark contrast stands Paracelsus, born Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim in the late 15th century. Paracelsus emerged as a revolutionary figure in the Renaissance, vehemently rejecting the humoral theory that had dominated medical thought for millennia. His views on disease and treatment were radically different, emphasizing chemical and mineral imbalances rather than humoral discrepancies. Paracelsus believed that the body was a chemical system and that illnesses were caused by specific agents that could be countered with precise chemical remedies. Paracelsus' approach to medicine was heavily influenced by alchemy and spagyric medicines, a discipline he integrated into his medical practices. He's often hailed as the father of toxicology for his pioneering work in the use of chemicals and minerals to treat diseases. This innovative perspective laid the groundwork for modern pharmacology as Paracelsus introduced the concept of dosage and the use of purified substances in medical treatment. His holistic view of health considered not only the physical but also the spiritual and environmental factors affecting a person's well-being, advocating for a comprehensive understanding of the patient as a whole. The alchemical texts, such as those concerning the transmutation of metals and the preparation of cements, provide a fascinating glimpse into the practical applications of Paracelsian principles. These texts describing intricate processes for transforming base metals into noble ones highlight the alchemists' meticulous methods and philosophical underpinnings of their work. The detailed instructions for various cements and transmutations reflect an empirical approach to experimentation, aiming to achieve specific outcomes through controlled processes. While the ultimate goal of transmuting metals into gold remains a mystical pursuit, the methodologies employed resonate with modern chemical practices in their emphasis on precision, observation, and iterative experimentation. The practice of fixation and coloring in alchemical texts parallels modern techniques such as electroplating and alloying, where metals are manipulated to achieve desired properties. The use of thermal treatments, a central theme in alchemical processes, finds a direct correlation in contemporary metallurgical practices like annealing and calcination, which involve controlled heating to alter the properties of metals. The concept of the tincture, a transformative substance in alchemy believed to possess medicinal and transmutative powers, foreshadows the role of catalysts in modern chemistry. Catalysts facilitate chemical reactions without being consumed, playing a crucial role in industrial processes such as refining crude oil and synthesizing pharmaceuticals. This continuity from alchemical to modern chemical practices highlights the foundational impact of historical experimentation on contemporary scientific methodologies. Paracelsus' rejection of the humoral theory in favor of a chemical understanding of disease represents a pivotal moment in the history of medicine. His holistic approach, integrating spiritual, environmental, and physical factors, aligns with modern integrative medicine, which emphasizes a comprehensive view of patient health. The detailed recipes and processes in alchemical texts, while rooted in mystical and empirical knowledge, laid the groundwork for systematic scientific exploration and the development of modern chemistry and pharmacology. In reflecting upon the contributions of the greats such as Celsus and Paracelsus, We see the evolution of medical thought from the methodical and cautious practices of the Greco-Roman world to the innovative and holistic approaches of the Renaissance, concerning the transmutation of metals and of cements. Just as we have given instructions concerning other transmutations, in the same way also we will fulfill our task with reference to cements. We will make mention of 6 cements, under which indeed all the kinds of cements will be comprised, with which we shall deal singly in serial order, according to recipes and modes of operation. The consideration has to be made general in all respects, so that all the cements may be reduced to one mode of fixation and coloring. These 2 conditions should not be separated, but they should always persist and remain together in one: cineration, coloration, and quartation, just as the properties of true gold are conditioned. This book on cements does not state how inferior metals are to be transmuted into others, as lead into copper or iron into copper, etc., but this at least it teaches how metals may be cemented into the chief metal, gold, that is, soul. For cements with other recipes cannot perfectly fulfill their operation for transmuting to other metals, but in these only there is a complete and rapid work of transmutation into soul, which masters all the other metals, not indeed by quartation, but by coloring and tincture. Note, from all that has come down to us concerning the labors and investigations of the old philosophers, we see how indefatigable was their search after the best method for preserving and lengthening life. But being themselves devoid of a perfect instruction in the preparation of medicines, they did not hesitate to have recourse to the alchemists, and thus by the combined labors of both parties. There at length arose a genuine science of pharmacy, which then, by means of various chemical experiments devoted to medicine, was marvelously propagated and increased. But that which they called the tincture excelled all. Yet, at the same time, it had fallen into a certain discredit, owing to the gold makers, who thought it chiefly useful for the transmutation of metals. The philosophers of old, having compounded the tincture, whereby they transmuted the colors of metals and purged away their dross, as might have been expected, next began to think of making use of it for the purpose of medicine, and seeing that the flowers of the metals were endowed with greater virtues than the metals themselves, they attempted to utilize these in the interests of the physician. Accordingly, whether from the benignant disposition of heaven or through the fertility of their minds, those tinctures were discovered and improved, the efficacy of which is borne witness to by ancient manuscripts, which manuscripts have been suppressed by the crowd of pseudo-Medici, but we do not hesitate to publish them. Chirurgia Magna, Tract 3rd, C1. And notice should be taken what are the bodies which confer their own concordance as though belonging to the same species. For there are some bodies which are receptive, and others which are not so. Some have first of all to be reduced to their flowers with, others this is not necessary. In like manner, some species color according to the red soul, others according to the clay soul, some in flux, some in half cement. In like manner too, diligent attention should be paid to fire, as being that wherein all cements chiefly lie concealed, and wherein they gain their power of operation. Fire contains within itself the whole of alchemy by its native power to tinge, graduate, and fix, which is as it were born with it and impressed upon it. Fire tries everything, what is impure removes, and it brings about the manifestation of pure substances. Paracrumum, Book 1, Chapter 1. Fire separates the fixed from the fugitive. De Morbis Metallicis, Book 2, Part 2, Chapter 1. Whatsoever pertains to separation belongs to the science of alchemy. It teaches how to extract, coagulate, and separate every substance in its peculiar vessel. De Morbis Tariferis, Chapter 16. Whatsoever man does the planets do also, but in alchemistic sense and process. Accordingly, as the alchemist seeks saltpeter and nitre, mercury and dung, sulfur and fire, so he also seeks the firmament, which is in invisible Vulcan. When he has collected these substances and has united them, detonation follows of that kind which in heaven is called a thunderbolt, but the alchemist terms it bombard. For he has the power of producing thunder, as in magic, which is the philosophy of alchemy. There are foolish people who confound it with what is now understood as nigromancy, yet there is a sense in which it is properly such, and in which nigromancy is its true name from its earliest origin, being derived from the word blackness, because its initiates walk about as black as charcoal burners. They are all nigromantics who serve Vulcan. De Salica, Book 5, Chapter 5, Paracelsus. Every elaborator of cements, too, must attend carefully to the method of the process, for the method is even of greater moment than the prescription or recipe. So then, let us proceed to the series of the 6 cements, as being those whereby all cements are regulated. Among these the first is the royal cement. Paying little heed to the method of the ancients, we will follow experience as our guide, and those prescriptions which experience proves to be of no use, we will omit. Thus, the first cement called royal cement. Take flour of brass, antimony, brick tiles, common salt of each half a pound. Having pounded all these very small and mixed them together, let them be imbibed with wine and dried. Repeat this process 24 times. With this powder, let plates of Luna be cemented in a moderate degree of fire for 4 hours. Then at length take regulus, plated and crude from the former process, and cement it with the same materials and an equal degree of fire, repeating the operation 4 or 5 times. Afterwards, having fulminated it again with cinders or ashes, reduce it once more to Luna. The instruments, such as the melting vessels, etc., must be thoroughly luted and stopped up. And although what we here set down is a somewhat lengthy process, yet you must know we make it so for the reason that experience teaches us there is no good in short processes by fire. Indeed, seeing that the continuance and force of the fire supply the chief fixation for the royal cement, it would really be far better if the substances spoken of were left for 4 days in the same kind of cement. Note too that the flowers of brass should be extracted from copper by means of vitriol, for herein is contained some natural fixation when it is taken thus, and that for many reasons. So too, the tiles should be taken from a good house, for the roof has the power of fixing the vapors which exist in Luna, which otherwise all fly away and escape. Salt corrects and fixes leprous Luna, cleansing it from its blackness. These 4 details should exist and be put into practice together, but it is the fire that must be specially observed and noticed. To this cement no other metal is applied, and after it is fulminated it discloses and exhibits gold. Therefore this cement should be considered sufficient for one. Concerning the second cement, the cement which we wish to put down in the second place is only for soul, and with regard to it there are 4 objects which have to be considered. The first is that soul is sometimes found in the cement defective in the fourth or middle part, because it is not fixed, or not brought to its degree without its deficiencies, as we set down in our treatise on gradations. Wherefore it has to be cemented in order that it may be able to retain its own volatile body, which otherwise sometimes flies off in the cement or in the process of incineration or else in aquafortis. The second object is that a good deal of sol is found which is defective in color, and it is necessary one should know how to bring it to its perfection of coloring without diminution of its bulk, and so that the colors may remain in the specimens. The third is that this white, imperfect color of sol, having the appearance of Luna, may be cemented, so that it may retain the color thence acquired in every specimen. The fourth concerns the weight in which the sol is sometimes defective, so that it is esteemed as somewhat common. This must be entirely restored to it when it proves its higher quality by its color, and a higher grade of sol exists for many reasons. For the weight deceives no true artists, as the probe may also for many reasons. By means of cement, gold can be perfected in these 4 particulars, so that afterwards no defect shall be found in it, nor any volatile or unfixed condition. Let the preparation of this cement be as follows: antimony and flour of brass, of each half a pound, of coagulated mercury. 1/4 of a pound, let all be mixed together and imbibed with red oil of antimony until the whole is reddened. Afterwards, cement it with it gold in very thin plates or grains, liquefied by fire for 24 hours, without the heat being allowed to decrease, in a fusing vessel closely fastened. When this time has elapsed, take out the regulus not acted upon by the crude antimony. Let it be liquefied with the addition of copper green or borax, and afterwards pour it into a form. So you will have the very best and most abundant cement for rendering soul free from defects and in its highest degree fixed and permanent in all cements, incinerations, and quartations. Concerning the third cement. So far we have set down the 2 fixations or cementations for Luna and Sol, which ought to be adopted when these metals are to be multiplied. But others too have to be cemented, and afterwards placed in a colored cement. This third cement is adapted for perfecting the other metals, and rendering them fit in themselves for the tincture of the other cements. For where a metal has not been prepared and smeared over for this tincture, it is not able to take it, or only in a very slight degree, and by a dangerous process. Quicksilver, which is comprised under the cement, is not among the number of the metals, but only among metallic materials and malleable bodies. Quicksilver is generated from the mercurial prime principle. It is not ductile and is opposed to ductility. Although of all metals it is chiefly assimilated to mercury, it differs in this, that it has not received ductility from the archeus, through the weakness occasioned by its small quantity of salt and sulfur. It can, however, by the spagiric process of addition, become a ductile metal, as is demonstrated by the philosophy of transmutation, which shews that it is capable of conversion into any metal. De elemento aqua tract 3rd C7. The cement is to be made thus: antimony 1 pound, saltpeter 1 pound, common salt and salt of tartar half a pound each. Having mixed all these together, put them in a dish, place layer by layer with plates or filings of the metals. Let them be closely shut up and cemented for 12 hours with a most powerful fire, which had been originally for the first 2 hours only a gentle one. When this time has elapsed, let all that remains be extracted, that is to say, the lapa refused along with the regulus. This must be noted that all cementings of this kind do not exhibit the regulus, but some of them only the lapas. These should be afterwards treated with Saturn according to the ordinary method, and Saturn of the same kind burnt in the vessel. Then the metal will be found fixed upon it. And here mark the difference of the separation by means of the jar, the cupella, or the cineritium. The metal enters into the cineritium or the cupella, but in the other case it remains on the jar. Metal of this kind, which remains on the surface of the jar, you will cement a second or a third time as above, so that it may turn out more fixed and remain on the cineritium. When this has been done, it is fixed for receiving the tincture, which is given it by cementation. With regard to this cement, it should be remarked that 2 or 3 metals can be blended together in one mixture and one body, which will be better than before. The following is the method. Take filings of Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, or Saturn. Let them stand in a fire of liquefaction for 12 hours. Addition. The cement will be more useful if besides the above there be taken of antimony and salt, each 1 pound. Filings of Mars, Venus, and Saturn, half a pound each. Treat them as before mentioned. Concerning the 4th cement, the 4th cement is that which is composed of minerals containing within them a perfect metal and losing it by means of liquefaction. Here it should be noted that metals cannot be better fixed than when they are crude. They vanish altogether in the process of liquefaction. Transmutation of this kind takes place in minerals and metals before liquefaction, so that the metals may be fixed in their own nature, or may be transmuted into some other metal. Therefore, we will here comprise 2 cements under one. The former is for fixing a metal in a mineral without transmutation, the latter for transmuting the metal of Venus into Sol or some other metal. It must be remembered that there are far more excellent spirits in minerals than metals themselves. These are they which assist the gradations and the fixations of minerals when they contain in themselves the tincture and the colors of the matter, which properties have not yet been destroyed by fire, as we fully point out in other books. The following is the prescription for fixing a metal in its own mineral. Take of the mineral of Mars, well ground 1 pound, to which add 2 pounds respectively of antimony and saltpeter. Cover them closely, lure them, and let them be kindled in a fire of liquefaction for 24 hours. Then pour them out, diminish with some reduction, and fulminate with Saturn. Thus you will find metal of the same kind, with good color of its own, which can be tested in many ways and demonstrated naturally. So with other minerals whereof we make no mention here. For the spirits existing crudely in metals take precedence according to their own colors and essences. The following is the prescription for the transmutation of minerals. Crocus of the flowers of Mars and flowers of the crocus of Venus, each 1 pound. Vitriol and alum, each half a pound. Prepared common salt, 1 pound. Of the mineral, 2 pounds. Let all be liquefied, deprived of humidity, and cemented for 12 hours. Afterwards let them be liquefied and fulminated in Saturn. When this is done, there will be found in the Waite a transmutation of the cineritium. You can even, for a transmutation of this kind, add a mixture of metals, taking into account, however, the special aptitude existing in them by means of which one can be more easily transmuted than another. Concerning the 5th cement. This 5th cement concerns only volatile bodies, as of common mercury, and metals such as Saturn, Venus, Jupiter, Mars, etc. It must be remarked that the corporal mercuries from the metals differ from the common mercury in their tincture, since they demand more tincture from the proved metals than that common one does. So too, it should be understood that both mercuries, the corporal and the common, should be first of all coagulated in order that they may be able to resist the cement and to recover their corporal substance, together with their tincture and coloring, as the best metals should. Mercury becomes coagulated by lead, for no metal has greater affinity for mercury than lead possesses. Coagulation is performed thus. Take 3/2 of fine lead. Melt it in a vessel of clay, remove it from the fire, and let it cool somewhat. When it approaches congelation, pour into it the same quantity of living mercury. Orthodoxus Magica lib. 7th, the coagulation of mercury is as follows. Take aquafortis, weakened by a solution of luna to such a degree that it no longer has any corrosive force nor sharpness for dissolving. Into this put either of the mercuries before spoken of. Let the water be warmed a little and afterwards stirred to a thick mass. Then the mercury will coagulate and harden into the form of a thick mass. The mercury will coagulate and harden into the form of metal. Take it out of the water, wash until clean, and then cement it with the following: borax, 2 grams and a half, sal ammoniac, 2 ounces, crocus of the flower of brass, and flower of the crocus of Mars, each 6 ounces, calcined vitriol and calcined alum, each 2 ounces, hematitids and bolus armeni, each 2 ounces. Let them be well pounded, mixed, and imbibed several times in urine. Afterwards, let them be placed layer by layer in a fusing vessel, with the junctions closed and luted. You will cement by observing the degrees of fire gently for 1 hour, and then with a stronger heat for the next hour. Cement for 4 hours, and keep in a state of fluxion. Then put it in Saturn and fulminate, so you will have the transmutation of mercury as we said above. But when it has been cemented otherwise than in the way now described, it can still be transmuted with the following cement: cinnabar and borax of each half a dram. Let these be liquefied into one body, which sublimate after the method of cinnabar, so that it shall still be one body. Then add the following: calcined common salt, flowers of brass, crocus of Mars, bolus of each 2 ounces of the above-mentioned body, 1 dram. Let them be placed layer by layer in a crucible. Afterwards, let them be slowly heated for the first 6 hours, and for the next 6 treated with a greater fire. And at last, for 12 hours, subjected to the most violent heat. This having been done, again, sublimate as above by the aforesaid process, and on the 4th or 5th cement you will find the cinnabar fixed, which reduce and fulminate by Saturn. You will then have its transmutation as aforesaid. In this way you can proceed to transmutation with other volatile bodies. Concerning the 6th cement, it now remains to be said in what way part with part comes to be cemented, so that it receives more of the tincture, and receives it sooner than by other like operations of the artists. Because soul is fixed and graduated by the cement. It should be understood too that these should be cemented and both raised to the highest degree, prepared, subtilized, and repurified, afterwards liquefied at the same time, and made into plates in equal weight. Then stratified in a crucible closely shut with the following powder: cinnabar, flower of brass, bloodstone, half a dram each, sal ammoniac, calamine, sulfur, common salt, vitriol, alum, and crocus of Mars, 2 ounces each. After having been well ground and mixed into one body, let them be exposed to a gentle fire, and afterwards imbibed with urine, and at length use it for the aforesaid stratification. Let them be placed at the fire 6 hours to liquefy, then renew and liquefy for another 6 hours. Do the same a 3rd time for 12 hours, a 4th time for 24 hours. Lastly, liquefy by a fulminate of Saturn. In this way you have transmutation. If, however, you have selected other metals, such as Venus or Mars, add more of the powder and more heat, that they may be able to mix and be brought to a state of transmutation. In these few words, we would conclude our book on cements, believing that we have treated these matters with sufficient clearness. Although many other prescriptions for similar cementations are in vogue, we exclude them from our own enumeration, putting down in this place only those which have been by experiment proved more useful. Here ends the transmutation of metals and cements.